Hi, Texas Children's. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Tegan, and today we're here at the Health Museum here in Houston, Texas.
We're going to go on a field trip. Let's go.
Wow, the museum is so smart. They have a huge brain.
Tegan, did you know the brain has two sides to it? There's the right side that focuses on your creative abilities like your art and your music, but it actually controls the left side of your body.
And then the left side of your brain actually controls the right side of your body. Its job is in charge of logical thinking like science, math, and even language.
That makes a lot of sense.
You're so creative. Hey guys, I'm here with Mariel. She's one of our music therapists here at Texas Children's Hospital. Mariel is a neurologic music therapy fellow, which pretty much means she knows a lot about the brain and how it works. Mariel, tell us what you know about the brain.
Hey Tegan, thanks for having me on the show today. I'm really excited to talk about something that I love. It's the brain. And what's really cool is most of us have one. So we'll all be able to find something really important today in our lesson. The brain is kind of this big computer that rests at the top of our body, and it helps drive all of the other things. And when I think about the brain, I think about how it has different parts that each have a really important job to do. So a lot like a house, you probably don't want to make your macaroni and cheese in the bathroom, and I'm guessing you're not going to take a nap in the kitchen. There are a whole bunch of different rooms in our brains that have very specific jobs. And I thought the best way to learn about all of those different rooms, or lobes, was to color.
Yay, I love coloring.
So this red part, located at the very front of our brain, is also called the frontal lobe. What's really important about our frontal lobe is it's kind of our front door for all of the really important information that we learn. We like structure and we like knowing what's coming next. And this frontal lobe helps us in making decisions. It helps us in planning and organizing. It's also the area of our house, our brain, that stores all of our speech centers. So when we're wanting to tell a really cool story or a joke, or make sure that we retained all of that information that Mom told us about when we needed to pick up our room, all of that is stored and processed in our frontal lobe. I think another thing that's really cool about this part of our brain is that it's the part of our brain that knows what words are coming next. So when I sing a song like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little
Star.
That's right. Not only do you know the word that's coming next because of your frontal lobe, but you know exactly how fast to say it because you're processing that rhythm, and you even matched my melody and my pitch, which takes me to the next part of our brain. We're headed to the yellow section of our brain, our temporal lobe. This is kind of exactly where you would think an ear would be, and then this little section up top here. Sometimes when I turn my brain around, I see a mushroom.
I see it too.
Yep. So our temporal lobe works really closely with our frontal lobe, but it has some big important jobs, like everything that we hear through our temporal lobe. It's also really special because we have two temporal lobes in our brain, whereas we only have one frontal, one parietal, and one occipital. So I think it's kind of cool to note that we have two ears, and on each side of our brain, that's where our temporal lobe is located. Another thing that's really fun about this section of our brain, and I'm usually going to draw correlations to music, is it helps us process our feelings and to know exactly kind of what emotions are going through our body, which I think is funny because when I listen to certain important songs it always makes my heart feel a certain way. And so I think that you can remember your temporal lobes are important because that's where you hear and where you feel a lot of your emotions. We are now headed to the blue section of our brain. It's going to look small, but it actually spans all the way across the top where our temporal lobes are on our sides by our ears. The parietal section of our brain is this little chunk here, and it will be blue for today, but it's never really blue because this is the section of our brain that's in charge of movement and sensation. This is where our primary motor cortex is located, and those are big fancy words for the part of our brain that triggers our body to move in all different kinds of ways. It's the one that says, scratch your right knee because you have the sensation of an itch, but you also have the ability to coordinate your arms and your knees to scratch that itch. I think the parietal lobe is oftentimes what we see impacted most when we have things that go wrong with our brain and all of a sudden there are certain sections of our body that can't move anymore. It's because our parietal lobe maybe has gotten hurt and it needs some time to heal back. As it heals, we're able to help the parietal lobe relearn how to create those movements in space and time. A big fancy word that we call proprioception. The last lobe of our brain, though there are two very important parts of our brain we're still going to talk about, is our green lobe. Funny enough, it is the biggest lobe in our brain, but it's the one that we know the least about. This green lobe, which kind of is the entire back of our brain, is really important for all things vision. It's where our eyesight is processed, so it's where we're able to see things like colors and shapes. It also is tied a little bit, just like our temporal lobe. This front section that you just colored is also tied to memory because sometimes when we look at something, it helps kickstart a really important memory that we have. Like, I have a very old, very dear red teddy bear. And because of my occipital lobe, I know that he's red and I know he's a teddy bear. And I can then remember all of the important nights that he helped me get to sleep, or when I brought him to the emergency room because I needed stitches. So the occipital lobe is really important in making sure that not only are we seeing, that we're processing what we're seeing. I know one of my dear friends, Daniel, has color blindness, and that's because certain areas of this occipital lobe are developed differently. And so these colors might not come across as typical as the rest of us would process vision. It's just a way that our brains can be different and that we can perceive the world around us differently. So we're going to move down to the orange section of our brain, and this is our cerebellum. What's cool about this is you will see the change in lines while our cerebrum, which is 85% of our brain, is full of squiggles and folds, which have a very important big name, but we don't need to know that right now. All we need to know is that they're folds, which then house a bunch of different areas. Our cerebellum has thin, almost like tiramisu or like layer cake type layers. And what's really neat about our cerebellum is it talks to all of our different lobes, almost all at the same time, to help us coordinate things like coloring. So our cerebellum is processing that you're coloring the color orange. You can hear the sound of the coloring that you're making. You can see the lines you need to stay inside of. You can move your right hand so that it's fast but still so precise that it stays in the lines. And you're able to understand and decide when to stop coloring because you've reached the end of your lines. So while the cerebellum is, I guess, oftentimes put at the back burner because it's literally in the back bottom part of our brain, it's really important. And sometimes when that part of our brain gets hurt, our movements become really hard to coordinate or a bit sporadic. We call that ataxic is the big fancy word for it. Or if that part of our brain gets damaged, we have a really hard time processing maybe sounds or vision, and so we can get overwhelmed really quickly, which is why it's important for us to help heal that part of our brain. The last part of our brain, which is going to be the purple part of our brain, is our brainstem. This is a really important part of our brain because it's the part of our brain that connects our cerebrum, all of those lobes and bright colors, with our spinal cord and essentially the rest of our body. It's the very top of an important rope called the cauda equina, but we don't need to know that. An important rope that runs all the way down, holding nerves that fire our muscles to move and that cause us to react when we touch something that's hot. The brainstem is also really important and located in the safest, most secure part, like deep in there. I can't even pretend to touch my brainstem because it's so far in the middle and protected by the rest of our brain and our skulls and our muscles, because it controls our breathing and it controls our heart rate. It controls all of the very important jobs that keep our body alive. Things like blinking, things like our diaphragm, which helps us swallow and process. All of those parts that we never really have to think about, but our body just does. Swallowing, breathing, blinking, heart beating. Our brainstem, that's its job. And I take it for granted a lot, but I'm really, really grateful for my brainstem. So these are all the important parts of our brain and how they work together. I think another fun story that I can tell you is kind of what happens when we need our brain to talk to each other, because just like a house where you have a kitchen and a bedroom, a bathroom and a living room, it would be weird if every room in your house was a kitchen. Probably not comfortable, maybe a little hot. So you need all these other rooms in your house to make it livable. But we've got hallways and doors that help you walk from one room into another so that you can enjoy all of your house. And our brain has something very similar to that. Hallways and doors, which I like to think of as a GPS system, perhaps. It's called neuronal plasticity, which is a big fancy word for how our brain is able to get through certain parts. Like, let's pretend that you've got a little brother. I don't have to pretend, I really do have one. And you are trying to get away from him in the house, and you're running. All of a sudden you shut a door, and he can no longer use that path to get to you into the house. But he knows that if he goes around the staircase and through the guest bathroom, he's gonna find you in the study. This is a real life example. So what I love to do in my job as a music therapist is use music to get around maybe the shut doors or the blocked paths in the brain so that we're able to move our feet to the beat or sing along to our favorite songs. We're able to play the drums or to high five afterwards. We're writing things that express how our heart feels, but we're also working really hard on getting our speech and communication and singing voice stronger. Music's incredible because it is housed and encompassed in every single lobe and facet of our brains. And when music is present, the entire house, every light in the house is on. The backyard's bright as the crack of dawn. That's a song. And that sentence jogged my memory probably somewhere in my temporal lobe because I was hearing that song into remembering and being able to tell you guys that little tangent. So I love using music in my job, and I can't wait to use music with you. I hope that you've learned something really cool about the brain, and I'm curious, Ms. Tegan, do you have any questions? Is there anything else that you want to know about the brain?
Not that I can think of. I think you shared so much about the brain, and I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure our friends did too.
Awesome, yay. Well, hopefully I'll see you in the halls and walls of Texas Children's. Thanks for tuning in.
see that?
What? Because it's an eye?
Well, yeah, I mean, the eye is so important because 85% of what you know is based on what you see in the world.
Tegan, I feel seen.
Ashley, I see you.
Different parts of your eye work together to create your vision.
Sometimes parts of the eye don't work as well as they should, making things a little bit blurry. That's why it's important to be seen by the eye doctor so you can see clearly too.
Your brain even has nerves that send signals to your nose for smelling and your ears for hearing. Tegan, what is this?
It looks like a sound booth. This type of sound booth measures decibels. Sound is actually measured in decibels.
You want to give it a try?
Well, yeah. So, Ashley, where all have we been today?
We've been through the brain, we've seen the eyes, the ears, the nose, and now it looks like we're in the rib cage.
Oh yeah, and the rib cage is important because it protects the heart and the lungs, which help you breathe.
And here we have the human heart.
This heart is a little bit big. The size of your heart is actually more like the size of your fist.
The heart's job is to pump blood and oxygen throughout your whole body.
So it's got a really important job to help your body.
Sometimes kids' hearts can get really stressed out or get sick.
Texas Children's Hospital has a heart center that has doctors and nurses to help care for kids' hearts to keep them safe and healthy. Hey Ashley, are these the lungs?
Yeah, the lungs are the organ in your body that help you breathe.
The lungs are important because they work to breathe in air and then carry oxygen all throughout your body.
I can breathe easier now.
Hey friends, have you ever wondered how your body keeps you moving and playing and having fun every day? It's all thanks to two super important parts of your body, your heart and your lungs. Let's dive in and see how these two parts of your body work together to keep you moving and full of energy every single day. First up, the heart. The heart is kind of like an engine in your body. It keeps everything working and running smoothly. It's about the size of your clenched fist and it beats about 70 times a minute. That's probably about once every second, even when you're sleeping. Your heart's job is to pump blood, your body's fuel, all throughout your body, kind of like a water pump. Did you know that your heart is made of a special type of muscle that's not found anywhere else inside of your body? How cool is that? Your heart uses special tubes that carry blood all throughout your body. They're called blood vessels. There are 3 different kinds of blood vessels inside of our bodies. The first one is an artery. Arteries carry oxygen-rich blood from your heart all throughout your body, kind of like delivery trucks. The second type of blood vessel is called a vein. Your veins carry blood back to your heart when it's in need of more oxygen. You might be able to see your veins through your hands here and even in your arms. They're those blue lines in your body. The third type of blood vessel is called a capillary. Capillaries are teeny tiny little tubes, and they kind of work like a shipping warehouse. So their job is to ship out oxygen through the blood and then to bring in waste that we don't need, kind of like carbon dioxide or other different parts of our blood that we don't really need inside of our body anymore. Now, back to the heart. Your heart can't do its job alone. It actually works very closely and gets help from your lungs. When you take a deep breath, your lungs fill up with fresh air, which gives your body oxygen, which is a key fuel that your body needs. When you breathe in through your nose or your mouth, your air travels down your windpipe or trachea into your lungs into small, tiny branches called bronchi. The tiniest branches end up in tiny little bubbles called alveoli. These alveoli pass oxygen into your blood through capillaries and then take carbon dioxide out of your blood so you can breathe it out of your body. Together, your heart and your lungs make the ultimate dream team, passing energy and oxygen all throughout your body to keep you moving and thinking and having fun. So remember, every time you take a breath or you feel your heart beating, that's your body working really hard to keep you happy, healthy, and ready for adventure. We know how important it is to keep our hearts healthy. One really great way to keep our hearts healthy is through exercise. It looks like Ashley's choosing to get her exercise in through bike riding.
Another way to exercise is running. Go Tegan, go!
Hey guys, I'm here with Lawton and David, and David's a physical therapy assistant here at Texas Children's Hospital. David's here to tell us a little bit about the muscles and what they do inside of our body. So David, can you tell us what muscles are and what their jobs are for us?
Muscles are amazing. They are the motor units of our body. They are what help us move, they are what help us go, they help us lift, they help us jump, they help us dance, they help us cry when we're feeling sad, and we have all the muscles in the face. They do a bunch of things, and it's super important to take care of them. We have to stretch, we have to eat right, we have to sleep right. So the reason that we have to stretch is so that the muscles can work, all right? It's like we like to work in space, and if you have clothes that are too tight, you can't really move. You may see people get something called a cramp, where the muscle will seize up and it doesn't want to move. It's like a frustrated child that says, I'm not gonna do it. And it whines and it cries. We call that cramping. So we stretch. Or sometimes, to help us stretch, we get a heat pad. It helps our muscles relax. Sometimes when you have a long day, a bad day, you just kind of want to go to sleep and relax and calm down. That's what massage does. That's what sleep does. It allows us to reset.
David, can you tell us about how muscles play a part in your role as a physical therapy assistant?
Sometimes we have to have extra assistance, surgery, to help us with our muscles. And one of the things I work on in the hospital is helping those muscles not only function the way they should, align the way we need them to align so that they can get the most out of what we need to do. Maybe someone isn't walking at this particular moment and we have to work on muscles to help them to get to walking. Or sometimes we've all had owies, stubbed our toes, we've hit a shin, we've had a muscle cramp, and that kind of changes the way we walk. And it may look funny at first because something hurts, and I help you with that pain, understanding muscles so that everything can work together the same way everybody in the hospital works together. Anything you can think of, we try and help you do it if you can't already, or we try and help you do it better.
I heard that we use 70 different muscles in our mouth to speak. I wonder how many muscles it takes for a dog to speak.
Good job, buddy.
Coming at you live from the large intestine. Did you know that the large intestine's job is to absorb water in your body?
Fun fact, the large intestine is also called the colon, and it is 5 feet long.
5 feet long?
Okay, let's check out the colon.
Hey guys, Lawton and I are here with Michelle. Michelle's one of our nurses here at Texas Children's in the gastrointestinal procedural suite, which we call GIPS for short. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about the GI tract and what it does for our body?
Yeah, so the GI tract is a huge organ system in our body, and basically what it does is it takes all of the yummy things that we eat and maybe some of the not so yummy but really healthy foods that we eat, and it takes all of that in like a sponge, and it takes the nutrients, takes the vitamins, and it spreads it out to the rest of our body for us to use.
Can you tell us a little bit about the organs within the GI tract and how they all work together?
So I'll talk about the major points of the tract and the major points of the organ system, because there are actually quite a few organs in our GI system. But surprisingly, it actually starts right here in our mouth. And so a lot of people don't realize it. But right when you start eating, or if you smell something really good and you start salivating, that's already the beginning of the digestive process. And so it starts in our mouth, it goes down our esophagus and travels into our stomach. I know a lot of times we might say we have a tummy ache down here, but our stomach is actually up here. And we go all the way down and kind of pass through into our intestines, and we'll go all the way through, it's called our colon, to our rectum, and then we pass out through a bowel movement. Or some of our patients might have a stoma, and so sometimes they'll pass their bowel movements out through their stoma into their pouch. We actually start, like I said earlier, digestion right in the mouth with two different types of digestion. So we have mechanical and we have chemical. which is crazy to think there's chemical going on in our mouth, but it's really just another way to say our saliva is starting to break down our food. So mechanical is just us chewing, chomping down and making sure that we're able to break down the food so it's small enough to pass through our throat. And then the saliva has enzymes in it, and those enzymes act on different particles in our food and help to break it down even further. So you have a little bit of like a ball of smush going down your throat, so it's a little bit easier to swallow. That's why it's really important to chew your food. It makes it easier for it to come down into our esophagus. Your esophagus you can think of like a straw. A little bit bigger, of course, but that straw has muscles in it, and it helps us just kind of pass the food down so it slowly goes in and plops down into our stomach. Once it hits our stomach, that's where we're doing a lot of chemical digestion, and that's where we have a lot of different acids. And so in our stomach, it's mostly chemical, also still has some mechanical, but it starts really breaking down all of the foods and making it into a thinner substance, more of a liquid. So as it keeps going, think of food as it keeps going into our body. You might have started out with some chicken nuggets from Chick-fil-A here, but it's gonna break down until it's more of like a liquid. And so once it passes down to our stomach, it's gonna drop all the way down into our intestines. And I like to think of our intestines like a sponge. What happens is it's going to absorb all of those nutrients. It's going to absorb everything up, just like how a sponge would sop up some liquid. And it's going to take out all of the different things that we need for nutrients. And that's where we're going to get all of our healthy things from. So chicken nuggets, we can think of maybe proteins for healthiness, but probably more of a better example would be something like broccoli or a vegetable, where we're going to get some of those good vitamin A's and some of those good vitamin C's, or even an orange, right? That sponge is going to sop it all up. It's going to take it in through the walls of our intestines, and it's going to disperse all of that to the needed parts of our body. And then once it kind of gets a little bit further, it's also still going mechanical, because the colon is working and constantly kind of squeezing and relaxing and squeezing and relaxing. And that's as helping it pass through the tract. And as it continues to further pass through the tract and all the water is also taken from it, it gets to the point where it's now starting to become waste material. The body's taken everything that it needs, or everything that it can possibly take, because sometimes, unfortunately, we're not able to take everything we need, right? And that's why we have to make sure we're getting a nice rounded diet. And that's why we have different things on our plate. We're making sure we're getting all of the nutrients and the vitamins that we need from different sources. And so once all the body is done with what it has to do, then we have that waste material, and that's your poop.
Awesome. That's so cool and so interesting to know. I think Lawton was thinking the entire time, like, all this food talk is making me so hungry. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today and for teaching us a little bit more about the GI tract.
Yeah, absolutely. We are located in the Abercrombie building. If any of our friends ever want to stop by or have a question, there's so much to know. Like I said, I talked about the main points, but we still have the pancreas and the liver, and there's so many other things we could talk about, or even get into more detail about how it works. So all of our nurses are more than happy to answer any questions, and also our friends in the GI clinic that you may know too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey guys, I'm here with Robin. She's one of our dietitians here at Texas Children's, so she knows quite a bit about food and what it does for our body. So Robin, can you tell us a little bit about your role and how you help kids in the hospital?
Yeah, so I'm actually an outpatient dietitian, so I usually see patients in clinic. I might see you after you come to the hospital, but my job is to make sure that you have the right food and the right nutrition to help you grow and develop and live a happy life.
Awesome. So what does it take to have the right food for our diet?
Yeah, so we actually have a lot of different food groups, and when you combine all the food groups together, that's when you get a balanced diet that will help you grow big and strong and healthy. So our main food groups are fruits, vegetables, dairy, protein, and grains. And each of them play a different role in our body, provide us with different nutrients that will help us grow big and strong. The first food group that I'll talk about is fruits. So you might like fruits because they're really sweet and juicy. In the summertime, they make us feel cool, and they also provide us with good hydration. They also have special nutrients in them called vitamins and minerals. Vitamins and minerals are what help our body do different things, different reactions in our body. They also help build our bones. They might also help our blood go through the body more efficiently. They're also just a really tasty treat. Some of your favorite fruits might be something like bananas, strawberries, oranges, kiwis, mangoes. The options are endless. Our counterpart to fruits are vegetables. So fruits and vegetables have very similar nutrients, but vegetables are our savory or less sweet option. They also provide us with lots of vitamins and minerals so that our bodies can do everything that we need to do every day. Some of your favorite vegetables might be something like carrots, onions, mushrooms, tomatoes. You really can't go wrong with vegetables. They help give us fiber, which helps our body digest food more properly and keeps us going to the bathroom regularly so we feel good and light and are able to run around and play all day. Our next food group is grains. Grains provide us with energy. So they have carbohydrates in them, which are a nutrient that gives us energy so that we can do all the activities that we enjoy. And they also have certain vitamins that are also giving us energy, such as vitamin B. Some of your favorite grains might be oatmeal, bread, tortillas, rice, and we do recommend that at least half of your grains be whole grains. So that would be like whole wheat bread or oatmeal rather than white bread or white tortillas, but you're welcome to use both in a healthy diet. And then our next food group is dairy, which comes from either cows or you could have a plant-based source. And the biggest nutrients that dairy gives us are vitamin D and calcium, which help build strong bones, which we all want to grow big and strong, and so we gotta have strong bones to do that. We don't want to have weak bones that might break when you get really rough with your playing. Some of your favorite dairy items might be milk, yogurt, cheese. All of those are great options, also very delicious. Some of my favorite meals are built around dairy, such as like lasagna, one of my favorites. Love that. And the last food group is protein. So that would be like your meats and eggs, but also fish, as well as plant-based sources like beans or tofu. If you've never tried tofu, it's actually really good. It's pretty flavorless, but when you add a sauce, it really absorbs that flavor. And protein helps build up all of our muscles, which will help us be strong, as well as help us build up all of our organs are made of muscles too. There are different forms of muscles than what you might think when you got your strong arm going, but they are also made of muscle, so we need protein to build up our muscles so that we can be strong.
That's so cool. I feel like we hear so many of these words here in the hospital, and it's really cool to learn about how they apply to each different food group.
Yeah, I definitely think that the most important thing is trying to get a balance from each food group. So trying to have a couple different food groups at each meal, and definitely trying to get a balance of them because like I said, some help your muscles, some help your bones, some help your blood, some help your energy, some help your brain. And so we need all of them, which is why it's important to eat a balanced diet.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Robin, kids here at the hospital have so many different choices on the menu when they order from the cafeteria. So can you give us some tips and tricks on how to order food to fit a balanced diet?
Sure. I would definitely recommend maybe trying to have more than one food item so that you can get a balance of the different food groups. So if you're really craving a sandwich and you think that would satisfy you and give you energy, that only probably has grains and proteins. So I would recommend maybe choosing a side, and maybe if you are looking for a side, you could choose a fruit or a vegetable side. The grains and the proteins from the sandwich will definitely fill you up and energize you, but the micronutrients, or the nutrients that are very small in our bodies, which are found in fruits and vegetables, will help your body have overall health and nutrition. So I would definitely recommend always choosing more than one thing, as well as trying to make a healthy beverage choice. So a healthy beverage choice could be choosing milk. That will help build up your bones and round out a very balanced meal here in the hospital.
Okay, awesome. And then when kids go home from the hospital, you have so many different options for snacks outside the hospital. So what are some of your go-to snacks to fit a balanced diet?
Sure, yeah, I definitely love snacks. Snacks are really important to have at regular intervals in between our meals so that we stay full. We never get so hungry that we feel like we're not going to be able to make it to our next meal. So some of my favorite snacks would be like carrots and hummus. So carrots and hummus are a really good option because the carrots have a lot of nutrients and fiber, And the hummus has fiber and fat, and actually we know that fat is one of the nutrients that is the most slow to digest in our bodies. So when you eat it, it's going to stay in your stomach for just a little bit longer, which will help you feel more full in the long run. Another snack that I really like is a banana and peanut butter. So that's kind of the same thing. It's a fruit, which is similar to vegetables, and then peanut butter also has protein and fat as well as fiber. So it'll take a little bit longer to digest, and that way you'll stay a little bit fuller. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I eat a snack, I just feel like I want to keep snacking because it didn't really satisfy me if I don't have all of the nutrients in a snack. I like to make snacks more like mini meals rather than just something quick that will maybe satisfy me for a few minutes, but I want to make it to my next meal.
Awesome, thank you. I know I'm looking forward to my afternoon snack. I think I'll probably go for some like apples and peanut butter or something yummy like that.
Yeah, today actually I have planned, I'm gonna have strawberries and yogurt for my snacks. So that also is kind of the similar foods to banana and peanut butter.
Awesome, thank you. We had so much fun learning about the human body and the mind at the Health Museum.
Thanks for joining us on our field trip, Texas Children's.
Bye.